Hi everybody, we're looking at accidentals and semitones and tones today. Accidentals are symbols that you write before notes and that you read before notes in music that change and alter the pitch by a semitone. A semitone is just one step. We'll talk more about that in a second. So we're at the piano, as you can see, and I'm just indicating here the notes of the piano that we looked at in previous lessons. So I'm running my fingers here along those bass clef notes that we looked at and studied previously. But we're going to start at middle C today, which is the note that I've just played there. So middle C, and the note next to it, as you know, is a D. But there is a pitch in between C and D. If we go a note higher than C, we're going to sharpen it, and the sharp sign is the one that looks a bit like a hashtag, and that's the note there. So when you hear the pitch, it's raised, it's slightly higher than the C. There's the C, and it's gone just up half a step, a semitone or half a step. But if we listen to the note D, there's D. If we lower the note D, you can hear the pitch there going down, going lower, being flattened. So we would flatten the D to get this note here. Now, obviously, if you sharpen a C and flatten a D, it's the same black note. So there is my C sharpened. So because I've raised the pitch by a semitone, we call that black note there C sharp. But if I have the note D and I take the pitch down, I flatten it. So C sharp and D flat are the same note. Okay. So D, sharpen it by a semitone, up pitch. So D sharp. There it is, you'll hear the pitch go up, be sharpened. Similarly, E. If I flatten the note E, so take it down a semitone, I get E flat because I've flattened it by a semitone. So what two notes are the same here? We've got E flat and a D sharp. So same pitch, different names for that note. Okay, we're going to carry on now. You'll sense this pattern. F, I'm going to make it raise in pitch by a semitone, so F sharp. And similarly, G, I'm going to flatten the tone, the pitch by a semitone, so G flat. So what two notes are the same here? F sharp and G flat. Okay, so they are the same note. See if you can work out what this black note is going to be between G and A. So there's G being raised by a semitone, sharpened, and there's A being flattened by a semitone. So the note there, that second black note in the group of three, is a G sharp or an A flat. Carrying on. A, take it up by a semitone, sharpen it by a semitone, is going to be A sharp. There's the note B, take it down a semitone, flatten it, B flat. So A sharp and B flat are the same. Now there are a few other ones that aren't as obvious as those. Now if we look at the notes B and C, for example, or E and F, there's no black note in between those, you know that already. So do we have an E sharp and do we have an F flat? Well, yes we do. Because if we have an E and we take it up a semitone, if we sharpen it, it becomes an E sharp, and the F, I've already put the sticker on, if we take it down, that becomes an F flat. So remember, if you sharpen something, you take it up a semitone, like we've just done there, so E sharp, and if we flatten something, we take it down. So another name for E is F flat, another name for F is E sharp. Doesn't come up that much in the grade 1 theory, but you can see the pattern and how it works. So similarly, B, take it up a semitone, so sharpen it by a semitone. The note above it, C, is now going to be also known as, you guessed it, B sharp. So what's another name for B? So we've got a C, and I'm going to flatten it. I'm going to take it down a semitone, So what's another name for B? Another name for B is C flat, okay? So we've got every single note on the keyboard now. And there's our B and C. So going from the beginning again, previous scales that we'd looked at with white notes. Okay, that's called a C major scale, which we'll be talking about next lesson. This is called a chromatic scale. Chromatic, and we're going to be talking about that in future lessons. A chromatic scale is every note being followed by one semitone higher than it. Okay, slightly different to the C major scale. There are more notes as well. So get to know those sharps and flats. So with the work on the page, if you read page 14, exercise 2 is asking you and showing you where to put these flats and sharps and natural signs. The natural sign we'll get to in a minute. So the main thing to remember is the middle of the sharp. So kind of if you were looking at it as a sort of noughts and crosses, the centre square is always goes in the place on the stave that you want it. So I've just crossed that one out because we don't write the accidental before the note. We don't write it after the note. And also that third one, I've crossed that out because you don't just plonk it anywhere on the stave, okay? It has to go in the same place where the note would be. So like we've drawn the heads on our crotchets and minims and so forth, where we really centre it on a line or in a space, it's exactly the same for flats and sharps. So with the flat there, the middle of the squashed B for the flat sign goes through that B line because we want a B flat. And like before, the accidental doesn't go after the note. So let's cross that one out, it's wrong. And it doesn't just float anywhere on the stave. So read the information on the page and just be really clear with that one. So like I've said, there, that natural sign. Now the natural sign, all the natural sign is, it cancels out any sharps or flats previously. So an F natural is the note F. An E natural that you see in the music, an E natural is just an E. It cancels out any sharps or flats that may have been written in that specific bar. So, looking at semitones and tones, a semitone is one step. So that example there, we've got a B going to a C. So it's bracketed because there are no other notes between them. They are a semitone apart. Now at the moment, we've got a D and a C there, okay? Now D and a C are a tone apart. A tone is two steps, okay? So it says at the top there, I've just underlined it. Remember, a semitone is half a tone. A tone is two steps, okay? So what you've got to go through this exercise and do is find all the pairs that are only a semitone apart. So the G and A, for example, they are a tone apart. They're a tone apart because there's a G sharp in between it, isn't there, an A flat. Exercise 2, add an accidental so that it's a semitone apart. So you have to change the second note, just the second note, to make them a semitone apart. So we've got D and D sharp in the example that you can see there. The next one, we need to make them a semitone, the second note a semitone above. So we've got a B flat here. Now, we need to put a natural sign in front of this second note, because if we were to read the bar, one important thing to remember about sharps and flats is once you've put a sharp or flat in the bar, it affects all the notes of the same in that bar. So what I mean there is, for example, if you had a bar of music, you're looking at a bar of music, and there were 4 Gs in the music of that bar, and if the first G had a sharp sign in front of it, then that note, all the Gs, would be G sharp. So you only need to put the sharp sign once, similarly with a flat. So if I had 2 Bs in a bar, and the first one was marked as a B flat, it would mean that the second one would automatically be a B flat as well. So accidentals affect the whole bar. That's the best way to remember it. So that's why sometimes we need natural signs. So natural signs cancel out any other accidental in that bar. So just like I've said, just be really careful with those exercises when you read them through. Okay, we're going to look at a very famous piece of music now that incorporates flats and sharps and that chromatic sound, that descending sound of semitones, and that's the Phantom of the Opera theme tune. So you'll recognise it. Have a look at the music. I've also included it on the post as a picture for you to study more closely. Here it is on the piano. Just have a listen. It starts on the note D, and that note D is tied. It lasts for 6. And the first part of the tune is every note chromatically going down, sharps and flats. So it starts on a D, goes down to a D flat, C, B, B flat. Then it goes back up again. So B flat, B, C, C sharp, or D. And you'll hear there the other parts as well, the other parts of the music moving up and down by semitones. So remember, a semitone is just the next door note.